Okay, here we go. First off, what's your name, sir?
Uh, well, there's a few names. There's quite a few names. We'll kick off with the real one then. Garry, as in Gazza Bugie from Growan out in the Wild Wild West, just out of Lightning Ridge, and we've got the Freedom Castle out there that, I've had a lot of signs and a lot of things that have happened, but yeah, so that's where I'm stationed at the moment, apart from running around the countryside after being at Epic and being at the library and being at the start of the show when, of course, me and the boys and the kids and the family were camped out on the Murray River one afternoon, and we'd just been to a stand in the park, and we're looking at one another, and we'd just heard that you were going to head to Albury and go to do the tag along to Canberra. So anyway, Mark said, righto, we're fucking going to Canberra. So within half an hour, we're off to Canberra. So we made Albury, we camped with the first lot that hit Albury, and then off we went. So we picked out at the library, and that was the kick-off.
Can I ask you, I know your boys have talked about Epic and said how amazing it was, but what was it like for you as an older guy? Have you seen anything like Epic before?
Well, not to that extent. Not under those conditions. Not under it was a good atmosphere, but it wasn't a pop festival, or it wasn't a Sunbury. It wasn't Sunbury at the time, 69, whatever it was when So it had that whole different atmosphere where we'd been getting shafted, and we sort of had to do something, relevant at the time. So all we could do, and as we did, and what happened with Epic, was just come together.
Yeah.
So of course that was the kick-off, and then a few things happened there. Of course, I did start there, and we did do a few things through Don't Vote Major. That was our call name, and it's not a political party. It was just a movement to vote out the corruption and try and get something going, try and get the Aussie spirit back and start to fight, get up, and this is about a fight, it doesn't have to be physical, but mentally, and that's where, yep.
Can I ask you though, going back with that, let's go back, because what you are is a Larrikin. Your boys, you've given birth to two Larrikins, but you're a Larrikin yourself, and Larrikins now are under attack. They want you gone. They want nice, compliant people. Like, even if you go to a post office, there's a big thing on the wall: no aggression, no this. Just stay silent and take your punishment. So where do you come from? What was your father like who became you? And some of the stories you were telling from your youth, which were hilarious.
The kick-off, of course, is we grew up around Finley and lived out on a farm, and there were 7 of us kids, and everything had to start. We were wheat farmers, sheep, and in '61 we won a wheat competition. The wheat was above the top layer of the barbed wire fence, and so that was what I remember, being a baker, then becoming a baker. I remember that now because what happened was they GM modified the wheat, so up from being above the barbed wire fence, it went down half the size, half the length, and that was the first initial introduction of the GM modified wheat.
Wow.
So now we know why people who are gluten intolerant, because not only is that when they GM modified, but it's all the shit they spray our wheat and everything now. So, I've just been over to Gunnedah to buy organic flour, and because we're being fed, just the herbicides and the pesticides that are knocking us, making us crook. And now we know the folic acid that they're putting in the flours initially was for pregnant women, but folate and folic acid are 2 different things, that one will help you and the other one works against you. So being out in the farm and that, and of course the old man was a character. He was a bit of a gambler, a bushie and a farmer, and finished up walking off the farm. He wanted to become a shearer's cook.
Oh.
Yeah. So I done a few sheds.
A shearer's cook?
Yeah. And he became a shearer's cook after, being a successful farmer. But again, he came back from the war and it changed him.
Okay.
He fought for our freedom. That's why I get pretty irate about people saying, oh, you've got to conform and do this like pigs ask you do. My old man went to war to fight for my freedom, everyone else's freedom. He fought in 5 different fronts. And so, I used to go to different things with him. I used to go to the two-up, and I was the cockatoo standing at the gate. And if the coppers come, you'd all take off like hairy goats. And so he put most of his life up with 2 pennies.
Yeah.
But that's what happened. And knowing now what he went through and what we all went through and what we're going through now, he went through his stage of things. And, a few of the brothers followed him, and we're all the same. Kelly ran into my sister the other day at Moree, wherever it was, and, she can give you her version of her, but, that's what she is.
Yeah.
She'll headbutt blokes in pubs that, treat her the wrong way, and I've seen her knock blokes straight off bar stools, if they won't give her the chair. But, so back on the farm, I used to drive the tractor and do a few...
How old were you when you started driving?
Well, I was about 7 because I was on the tractor, and when I was 8 years old, I used to drive around the streets of Berrigan as an 8-year-old with my mother because she couldn't drive. And I'd be sitting on a pillow and I'd do the laps of Berrigan, I'd drop her off at the pub and then go burning around on this little Ford Cortina, and I'd have to get someone help me push it backwards because I could never get it into reverse. But it went on, from there, different things that happened, and moved to Shepparton and went to school there. Well, I didn't actually go to school much because it wasn't my cup of tea.
Yeah.
When I was a kid back on the farm, I was a bird nester. I could climb every tree, and I had over 200 birds, different bird eggs.
Wow.
So
you collected them?
Yeah. So, there was no TV, there was nothing, no electronic shit. If you wanted to go to town, you had to walk 9 miles, which I did. And every now and then my mate would come down on a BSA Bantam motorbike, a 125, and pick me up and would go bird nesting, and I'd climb all these trees. I only ever fell out of one. So, but that doesn't, make any difference.
Did you break anything?
Not really, just probably a lot of spirit and a lot of, to fall out of a tree. But of course then moved to Shepparton and went to school again there. And then I become a baker. I started work at Higgins Bakery, and Baker Boy makes better bread and you can taste the difference. And I started in 1969 at Higgins Bakery in Shepparton, and I started there. My first day was the last day of the horse and cart.
Wow!
Yep.
So what, they outlawed them or what happened?
No, they just run their race, know. I don't know how many horses' name was Trigger, but then the milky had horses, the bakery had horses, delivered all the bread with the horse and cart, and of course cars come in there, brought a fleet of, Bedfords or something, and so off it ran. So I became a baker, then I became a pastry.
Can I ask, when you were a baker, what were your hours? What time would you start and work to?
All night.
So you'd start probably at 9 in the evening or midnight, or when?
8, 7, 8.
Yeah.
And then went through all night. And done that 6 days a week. So I only used to get 1 night off a week.
And how would you socialise being a baker?
That became difficult. But But I tell you what happened. I had one night off a week, and in that one night off a week, mate, I made up for a lot of lost time. You know, I wandered around Shepparton like a blue-ass fly and never knew where to land. But when I did, I every now and then would make me notice felt. But I would be either Molly the monk or like that blue-ass fly. And used to drive around Shepparton as well. Used to go to the Saturday night dances at the Civic Centre in Shepparton.
The dances were big then, weren't they?
Massive.
We've met lots of people.
Massive.
They used to go around town to town doing dancing.
Massive.
It was a huge thing.
Country dances.
Yeah.
But ballroom dancing and everything. We've met old timers and they go, there was the bomb, man. That's what we do.
That's what
Yeah. No, I used to drive around then, bit underage, and didn't, bit like today, the laws and that come out didn't bother me too much back then. I used to drive around an old FC Falcon and see if I could get around the corner of the Civic Centre on two wheels. And normally have a couple of bottles planted under the tree out the front, and went in and done a few moves, you know. And still love doing that today. So, you know, the things that happen, and of course went through, and of course then got married and settled down. And then had the boys and my beautiful daughter still up at Darwin, Chewy. And so, you know, we're off and running. But, you know, I stood in there and done the hard yards, done the bacon for, you know, 40 years. And brought up the boys and just done the tumble, you know. But that's what happened. So.
But can I ask you, from your perspective, the filter of your experience, how have you seen Australian change and Australians change, from when you were young to how they are now?
So what happened back in those days? There was, of course, less.
Surveillance.
Yeah, definitely that. Even the pubs and the coppers and that, you know, they weren't that bad. They definitely used to tell me to piss off. Some would actually give me a ride home. And but it was policed itself as well. Like if there was a bloke going off too much in the pub, he'd be pulled up and he'd be either hurled out or knocked out. So there was a few options, and whatever takes your fancy at the time. If you think you're pretty good, well, you'd get knocked out. And actually, I think I got knocked out a few times, and hurled out. But back then, it was there was a lot more people, so it did police itself as well. And then, of course, more and more laws that came in, and of course, the coppers and the fining and the different things that happened. People sort of moved back and come a little bit reserved in themselves and weren't as outspoken. Like if there was someone really giving you the irrits, you would tell them to fuck off. Yeah. You know, and different people that then even the characters and that would hold off, and that's what I seen in the end. Different all those little places and with .05 and different people that were not going out as much, and then of course it got a bit harder with the cost of living and the price of different things. So it did get to the point where people were conforming as well. You know, instead of standing up like the councils and the government and different things that I've seen over the time, just made it to for people to, and it's easy to conform because back then there wasn't as much money. When the more money came in, they could afford to pay fines and different things, and that changed people to conform into, as we know today, which were definitely over conformed. And you know, to stand up, we don't want to be seen as the one out. Yeah. But there's always a leader and a follower. You're a leader, and so what we need and what we've got is different people with different ideas and trying to get, you know, the old sheep farmer analogy where one sheep will follow, but some of those sheep, you know, you could whack them in the guts or shear them, you know, pluck them, and, you know, that's a good story the boys will love to hear. because I was an old sheep plucker
What's up? Oh my God.
from way back. Back in those days, when you wanted two bob to go to
X-rating across here.
when you wanted two bob to go to the show, you know, I used to go wheat bag sowing and cut Bathurst spurs and thistles and get 2 bob for a wool bag full. And back then, wool was a good price, so I used to go out and pluck dead sheep, you know,
Oh, wow.
and take it in and sell it for money for the show.
Yeah.
And go wheat bag sowing, different things like that you did back in those days.
Just to make a bit of extra quid.
Yeah, well, you had nothing. I remember finding my first sixpence at the Finley railway station. And
When someone had dropped it.
yeah, so, but of course we get to the point where we are now, and there's a lot of us, you included, that are trying to be the front runner and try to get a bit of a tag along going like the camel trail. And so we're out there doing it. Like I've just come back from Darwin again with the boys, and you know we're like bees to the honey pot. Well, whatever's going on, you know, I'll go down to Cobram and be on the Murray, and then they got the shindig going. They got the base camp going up in Dundee at the moment.
Yeah.
And so I just spent 12 months up there. You know, they give me the top job as the top caretaker, bullshitter, welcomer, and loved it for the last 12 months up there.
Yeah.
With the daughter and the grandkids, and doing it out at Dundee. You know, done dirt cheap.
Yeah.
So
And they were saying there, when you buy a property, you own it. You own the soil beneath everything.
that's right. Yeah, because the council. Back in the day, the brothers didn't want that land because it was mud, and they sort of didn't give it the tick of approval, so no one wanted it. And then the town developed, and it's good to see different people that get on the reserve committee that will keep that going like that and stop the government getting in there and changing everything and changing the way of living. That's why we live out at Garry. You know, what we've got out here is our own little dung hill that we sit on. But I'm standing there with the flag. When this bullshit with COVID started, I stood there with me flag and me jukebox, and got the coppers ring on me, and wasn't allowed in the shop.
Wow.
I never wore a mask, and of course I never got vaccinated, and I stood tall. But I had to get me balls out of me pocket and run with it, and walked around and there's no streets out there. There are only mining claims, and with me pulling me trolley with me, singing me songs, all me freedom songs, and me carrying me Australian flag, and there he is, you know, the peanut city limits. But I loved it. I love being called whatever you want to call me, because I've got thick skin.
Well, that's an interesting
You
thing.
know?
Do you think in order to be a larrikin, a part of you does not have to give a shit what other people think of you? And that's the prison a lot of people are living in. They're terrified of what someone will think of them, and so they modify their behaviour to sort of try appease people who are probably not thinking of them at all.
No, that's right. So, and of course we've lost that thick skin.
Yeah.
You know, that bit of, if you get into just a conversation, turns into an argument, you know, you're just pointing your opinion on someone, and whether it's right or not, but you can work it out and go along with, you know, what we're hearing at the moment. We've all got a, you know, different opinion, and it's all coming out and it's all working to the respect that you're entitled to it, and I do. So but now we've got too many opinions. We've got to try and get back to, stop that thick skin and say, righto, we'll go in and have a crack, and we don't want to be over-led.
What do you think about all this digital ID, there's more control coming in?
Mate, we never had nothing back then in those days. As I said, you know, we went digital ID, and now we've just driven, you know, we're out at Lightning Ridge way out west where the rain don't fall, and we've got a job digging opal, and we've just driven past 2 digital identity cameras that reckon they're just car counters.
Yeah, we saw those coming in.
So that's where we're at. so they know exactly where you are, what you're doing, and everything else. You know, we pulled the sun visor down and Cal give him the bird, and you know, told them to go.
No, another killer does that.
Yeah, you know, I told them to go and plat their shit because that's where the over control and the corruption that we're seeing is. It's everywhere.
Yeah.
But all those Aussies out there, I know you're out there, and you've had a crack, and you can still do it. You know, we're out here. Don't worry about where's the Aussies and where's the blokes that'll stand up and fight on the hill. Well, they're out here. You don't see them because we've got our own dunghill, and when the time comes, like when we went to Canberra, then I go to all the stand in the parks in Darwin, all around the country, and you know, I'm following the old man's footsteps, and as we hear it and hear it and hear it with the shine of remembrance, and all that will happen there is absolutely disgusting. That we're here ready to stand up and do our bit, and whatever eventuates from that, we will take it with us. We will go shoulder to shoulder, and there will be, because it's good to have the spirit and that people out like Michael and Cal are out on the road doing it, ballsy, gutsy, never ending, and there's always something to fall back on to see what other people are doing. So I'm prepared to do my bit, and I've always done it, and the boys have done it, and we're out there to do it. We're encouraging other people to do it, even though we've gone through the shit show of, you know, don't vote major and don't. We all know it's corrupt and everything else, but we wanted to have our vote and have your say, so that way whatever eventuates from that, we'll hopefully, and we're all in. It's maybe our problem. We're all hoping. The problem is with hoping and wishing. If you wish in one hand and shit in the other, you know which one's going to fill up first. So all the best, brothers. Stay tall, stay strong, and just get up there. Roger that.